Immediately, as they approached you, with an air of self-assurance emanating from each pose, you were able to see right through the veneer. Your response was different from everyone else's. You were cool, collected, and tough to read. Everyone else was trying to appease their ego. You did not pursue them, and you did not give pursuit. Rather, you stood your ground at a level of quiet might that they had never experienced before. The only thing you did was smile when they attempted their typical strategies, the ones that had others encircled around their finger in a matter of minutes. They are entirely thrown off balance and completely enthralled by the one individual they were unable to manage or interpret. No, they are completely thrown off balance. You have handled them in a way that no one else has ever done before, and as a result, they are going absolutely crazy with want for the person they have never understood. They have become accustomed to people becoming captivated by their drama, becoming embroiled in it, and becoming trapped in emotional knots that they control like a puppeteer. To maintain the cycle, they use just enough force to achieve a rise, then recede, and then return, with just enough affection to ensure that the cycle continues. However, when they tried it with you, the ride came to an end. It is a carousel of confusion, but it does not continue. You were able to leave. The fact that you did not act out the role means that they are now the ones who are whirling, dizzy with bewilderment. They were disarmed by your decision to remain silent, and your impartiality pierced through their manipulation like a razor. More than anything else, the fact that you did not provide them with the ammunition they required to explain their own dysfunction was the thing that infuriated them the most. Because in the absence of your response, they are unable to blame any of it on you, and they are left alone with their strategies, their goals, and their projections. Your reaction is the mirror that they are forced to hold. Not in an outward manner, but now they are scrambling. Despite the fact that they are acting as though everything is all right on the surface, they are actually falling apart. You didn't react. Why did you? You didn't fight. Why did you? Why did you not cling to me, implore me, or lash out at me? They keep thinking about the question like it's static in their head. They did not receive what they required to provide the story they were attempting to tell with the necessary fuel, and because they do not have a villain, they are unable to play the role of the victim. Due to the fact that your energy does not conform to their pattern, they are perplexed. It is impossible for them to get a hold of you, to provoke you, or to name you, because the human mind despises things that it is unable to define. Their fixation stems from this reason. That is the reason why they keep mentally going back and forth. They are going absolutely insane because they are unable to locate a container that is large enough to hold your essence. You have broken their cycle and ruined their system, and now you exist in their mind like a ghost. You are untouchable. Your identity is unknown, and you are unbothered. They intended to provoke you, but all they succeeded in doing was provoking your stillness, and in that silence, they lost their power. You severed the connection, but in their minds, it was never actually made. You are a character in a fantasy that they have made in order to satisfy their desire for control and connection. They have created a version of you. They're not simply recalling the past, they're rewriting it. Not in a figurative sense, but in a literal sense, they are out there telling people that you are together. They are telling tales of romantic reunifications, proposals made in subtly whispered tones, and hidden plans for the future. The statements in question are not misunderstandings. Rather, they are fabrications, carefully designed illusions that are intended to keep you alive in their story long after you have left the scene. They are unable to tolerate the stillness that you have left behind, and as a result, they are attempting to replace it with noise. They are coming up with stories that they control, imaginations that they project, and lies that they tell with such passion that others could actually believe them. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. It is being told to your community, to mutual friends, and even to strangers that they are presenting stories of love that never existed and commitments that you never decided to make. It is as if they are clinging to a version of reality in which you are still theirs, still interested, still hovering in the background and ready to return. But the truth is, you went and they can't let go. This has nothing to do with love. Rather, it is about acquisition. Because they are unable to have you physically, they will make an effort to exert control over how other people perceive you. They do not miss you. Rather, they miss the sensation of having someone orbit around their ego. This is the new battlefield. Your name, your reputation, and your image for the world to see. It is possible that they will attempt to distort the space around you if they are unable to directly approach you. They are betting on people not asking questions and are gambling on the fact that they are ignorant, in the hopes that people will simply take in the fantasy without examining the facts. They are hoping. One of their goals is to cut you off from the rest of the people around you. They want members of your own community to view you with suspicion, to question the choices you make, and to wonder if you are the one who is suffering from instability. The act of projection is not the same thing as invasion. They're insinuating themselves into your life through the words of others, hoping that if they can't control your choices, they may at least poison the environment in which you live them. But none of it is real. Not the stories, not the supposed intimacy, not the imagined reconciliation. A last-ditch effort to maintain a connection that is no longer present. This is a desperate attempt. In addition, because you have withheld your energy, they are resorting to fantasy as a replacement tool. This deception is not a reflection of you. Rather, it is a reflection of their own refusal to acknowledge the truth. The reality is that they have been abandoned, and rather than confronting the void that they have created for themselves, they have filled it with delusion. In order for the world to believe that there is still something there, they want people to believe that you are their responsibility. However, the only place where your relationship is still present is in their mind, and even that is disintegrating under the pressure of your silence. You did not simply leave, rather, you shattered a pattern, which is something that they have relied on for many years. They derive pleasure from exercising control and shaping others to conform to their narrative. However, this was not the case with you. You did not give in. You did not conform to the norm. Neither did you perform for their approval, nor did you acknowledge their disorder. You were still. You were sovereign. You were a force they couldn't bend. And that truth tore something open inside them. They call you cold now, aloof, maybe even psychopathic, but that's projection. What they really mean is that you didn't collapse. You didn't feed their hunger for dew disguised as love, and they can't stand it. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. You know, I think about that verse sometimes and picture one single lantern in a cave so dark, so still, that you can't even see your own hand. And yet, the moment that light flickers on, even just a flicker, It pushes the dark back. It doesn't fight. It doesn't shout. It just is. And that's you. You were calm in moments they engineered to create panic. You were silent in places where most people scream. That stillness, that peace under pressure, it wasn't weakness, it was divine authority. That's the kind of power that can't be bought, taught, or faked. It's the fruit of a soul that knows where it came from. That control over your own emotions, that self-containment, it burns them because it means you don't belong to them, not even a little. You're not under their spell. You're not hooked on their approval. And let me tell you something, friend. When people can't control you, they will try to confuse you. But it didn't work, did it? You may be neurodivergent or highly intuitive, and that makes you dangerous to them. You see things. You sense energy shifts like a storm front rolling in. You decode motives in real time and spot the lie before the lips even move. You don't get swept up in fantasy because your spirit doesn't run after illusions. It follows truth, and truth don't run. See, they came with charm, but you saw the manipulation. They dangled chaos, hoping you'd chase clarity, but you stood still. You didn't need time to figure it out. You knew. Not only did you know, you mirrored it. You weren't placed in their life to be conquered. You were sent as a mirror, a spiritual disruptor, a breaker of patterns, a revealer of hearts. Your presence pulled up what they've buried deep. And honey, let me tell you, the devil can dress up in designer and charisma. But when truth walks in the room, even the best disguise won't hold. You didn't expose them by speaking. You exposed them by standing. You didn't have to shout. You just had to be. That's divine light. That's what chosen ones do. They show up, shine on, and shift the whole room. And that, my friend, is the calling you carry. They didn't want to see themselves. They wanted someone who would submit. Instead, they met someone who didn't flinch at the monster behind the smile. And they can't unsee what you showed them. That's why they're both drawn to you and repulsed by you. You didn't just deny them control. You returned it to them in a form they can't handle. You made them responsible for the parts of themselves they try to bury. And now they can't decide if they want to punish you or possess you. Both, probably. Because the truth is, they were desperate for someone like you. Someone who wouldn't fall. Someone who would hold the line. Someone who would challenge their fantasy. But now that you've done it, they hate you for it. Not because you were cruel, but because you were unshakably true. You didn't become who they wanted. You stayed who you were. And in that refusal, they saw everything they're not. You triggered the very wound they've spent their whole life trying to escape. And that's why they'll never forget you. You weren't placed in their life to fall for them. You were placed there to see them. Not the persona, not the story, not the carefully curated mask, but the raw, unfiltered truth of who they are beneath it all. You didn't get swept away by the charm or the chaos. You stood still long enough to witness the soul behind the spectacle. And that's what unsettled them the most. Because when someone is built on illusion, to be truly seen is a kind of death. Spiritually, you were sent as a witness, not a victim, not a lover, a guide. You were never meant to entangle yourself in their dysfunction. You were meant to reflect it back to them. You held up the mirror not out of malice, but out of alignment. And in that mirror, they saw the truth they've been running from for years. The manipulator, the projection artist, the emotional puppeteer. They saw their shadow, and they hated you for it. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap Join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the chosen. They mistook your empathy for attachment, your observation for longing, but you were never there to be consumed. You were there to observe, to stand in your power while they played out their scripts. And when they realized you weren't clinging, weren't hoping, weren't playing along, the panic set in. Because if you saw them and still didn't stay, what does that say about who they really are? Your soul didn't agree to the game, and they can't cope with that kind of defiance. They're used to controlling the narrative, casting themselves as the tragic hero or the misunderstood romantic, but you didn't follow the script. You saw behind the scenes, you heard the offstage whispers, you noticed the inconsistencies, and you didn't play along. That's why they're scrambling to rewrite the story now, to flip the roles, to paint you as the villain, the cold one, the problem. But no matter how many edits they make, your stillness holds too much truth. You were never cruel. You were honest. You didn't expose them to others. You let them expose themselves. You simply watched without rescuing or reacting. And that act alone was enough to make them unravel. Because no one's ever held space like that before. No one's ever looked them in the eye without flinching, without trying to fix, without trying to run. You stayed until the truth became unbearable. And then you walked. They're haunted by that. Haunted by your knowing. Haunted by the fact that you saw them completely and chose not to engage. You didn't lose control. You held power. And now, no matter what they say, they know you were the one who saw them clearly. And that kind of seeing, it can't be undone. Behold, I send you out as sheep among wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Let me tell you something, friend. When God raises you up, the enemy doesn't always come through the front door. No, sometimes the snake slides in through the garden, smooth and subtle, dressed up in fake concern and familiar voices. Just like the scripture says, you've been sent out into this world like sheep among wolves. And now, because they couldn't get to you head-on, they've started slithering in sideways. They couldn't control you directly, so now they're trying to reach you sideways, through whispers, through back doors, through the people you know and trust. It's covert. It's calculated. You may not see them standing at your door, but make no mistake, they're still trying to infiltrate your peace. This isn't closure. This isn't care. This is a campaign designed to distort your surroundings, manipulate the atmosphere, and tether themselves to your energy by any means necessary. They're reaching out to your friends, texting your family, slipping into conversations with co-workers. They show up sweet, maybe even soft-spoken, cloaked in regret. But don't be fooled. Every word is a chess move. Every sentence is strategy. They're not reaching out for healing. They're sowing seeds of confusion. They're spinning stories of heartbreak, rewriting history to make you the villain and themselves the victim. They were shattered, they'll say. They only ever loved you, they'll whisper. But it's not love. It's not truth. It's a performance. And the audience, everyone around you, they're building a narrative where you're cold, distant, ungrateful. Because if they can't get to your heart, they'll try to control how others see it. But here's the thing. They can't rewrite what God already wrote. Your peace speaks louder than their pity party. Your growth exposes their games. The people who are meant to walk with you, they'll see through it. The ones who don't, let them go. You don't have to defend your name in rooms God already walked out of. Just remember, wolves wear wool, but truth wears light. And light, your light, always reveals what shadows try to hide. Their goal is simple, to make others see you through their lens. If they can't have you, they seek to alter how you're seen. They're trying to link their name to yours in people's minds, clinging to a false narrative that keeps you intertwined. It's not just obsession, it's branding. They want the mention of your name to come with a story they wrote, not the truth you lived. They're trying to anchor themselves in your reality through lies, stories of reconciliation, fabricated texts, distorted timelines. They're rewriting the past and inserting themselves into your present. And while they can't touch you directly, they believe they can still alter the environment you walk through. If they can't get to your mind, they'll try to pollute your atmosphere. But here's what they don't understand. You've already detached. No matter how many people they contact, no matter how much fiction they spin, they still can't reach you. Your essence is sealed off. Your boundaries are energetic and absolute. Their words might circulate, but your energy remains sovereign, untouchable. This desperation is their unraveling. They don't realize that every story they tell, every message they send, every lie they plant, it all reveals more about them than it ever could about you. The people who truly know you aren't fooled, and the ones who are, they were never meant to walk with you in the first place. They are under the impression that they are influencing perception. But in reality, what they are doing is demonstrating that your silence was appropriate. They have never been acting in good faith. And now that they have nothing left to control, they are spiraling out of control. Every move they make behind the scenes only serves to confirm what you already knew from the beginning. It is possible for them to try to taint your name through manipulation that is disguised as mourning. However, they will never be able to access your truth. They can try to reclaim your image, but they'll never hold your essence. You are beyond their reach, and that's the one thing they'll never be able to accept. This wasn't chaos for the sake of pain. It was a divine setup designed to crack you open and crown you in the process. What looked like destruction was actually elevating you. You weren't brought into this dynamic to lose yourself. You were placed there to reclaim yourself. Every trigger, every betrayal, every illusion was orchestrated by a higher intelligence to pull you out of the role you were never meant to play. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull, tap, join, to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. You've spent years being the scapegoat, the over-giver, the one who absorbs blame just to keep the peace. You've been trained by trauma, by survival, by culture, to overly-explain, to shrink, to carry other people's chaos as your own. And this person, they were the final test, the storm that forced you to choose yourself fully and without apology. They came with seductive illusions and manipulative charm, not to ruin you, but to reveal you. This connection was an initiation, a spiritual fire designed to burn away false identity. They weren't just a toxic person, you were their spiritual mirror. And through their madness, you remembered your clarity. Through their distortion, you reclaimed your intuition. Through their hunger, you found your boundaries. You stopped internalizing guilt, stopped questioning your truth, stopped diluting your power to make others feel comfortable. You began to embody your essence, not in theory, but in practice. You started saying no, not just to them, but to everything they represented. Chaos, dependency, illusion, control. You broke the pattern. You didn't just walk away, you evolved. And now your energy is different, potent, aligned, uncompromising. And they feel it. They sense that you're no longer accessible, no longer tethered to the games they play. And that realization haunts them more than your absence ever could. Your presence now breaks illusions. It doesn't bend, It doesn't soothe manipulation. It doesn't entertain delusion. And that's exactly why they fear you and crave you. You are no longer a source of supply. You are a spiritual force. What they tried to drain has now become divine. You're being reshaped from the inside out, not as a reaction to their chaos, but as a return to your original self. They thought they were writing your story, but they were only an unfinished chapter. The divine is now the author, and this new arc isn't about healing them or proving your worth. It's about remembering that you were always the seer, never the scapegoat, always the one sent to observe, not to be consumed. And because you passed this test, not with rage, not with revenge, but with restraint, you're being elevated spiritually, energetically, entirely. This was never about them. It was always about you. They will never approach you in truth. Not now, not ever, since honesty was never their purpose. Manipulation was. And now that their tactics have failed, what remains is a slow unraveling of everything they once used to keep control. Their games don't work on you. And worse for them, they've stopped working on others too. What previously felt powerful now feels sad, even to those who once enabled it. This was never about love. It was obsessed past camouflaged as affection, entitlement masked as concern. And the more they reach, the more they're blocked, spiritually, energetically, and socially. God has set a wall between you and any hand that wants to extract your light without honoring it. That wall is protection. That wall is justice. Their lies backfiring, their manipulation exposed. What they thought would isolate you is now isolating them. People are starting to notice the inconsistencies, the desperation, the pattern. The very illusion they crafted is beginning to crumble under its own weight. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. There's a moment in every chosen one's journey where heaven says, stand still. Not because you're weak, not because you're giving up, but because the battle is no longer yours. It's the Lord's. And baby, when God steps in, He doesn't come swinging. He comes shifting, quietly, swiftly, with purpose. Just like that verse in Exodus reminds us, the victory wasn't in your voice, it was in your stillness. And you're untouched because you passed the test, not by retaliating, not by trying to prove a point, but by standing still in truth while the storm swirled around you. That kind of poise, that kind of restraint, that's not learned, that's divine. That's chosen energy. It is now time to begin the ascent. You hear me? This is your rising season. The people who are supposed to be with you are coming. You don't have to chase, force, or convince. They'll recognize your frequency because their soul already signed up to meet yours. And those doors that felt sealed shut, watch them swing wide because they were never closed to you, only for you, until the time was right. The ones who came to misuse your energy, oh, they're being spiritually evicted. Heaven served notice and said, enough. You're not being hidden. You're being positioned. Positioned for peace that doesn't waver, for purpose that doesn't shake, for power that doesn't shout. Because divine justice, it doesn't knock loud. It walks in quiet and right on time. They've lost access to you, and they always will. They tried to twist the story, cast a spell on your narrative, paint you with their projection. But it turned on them. Every lie they told, every whisper they spread, it became a net they got caught in. What they failed to foresee was how your silence would become sacred. They didn't realize the very stillness they mocked would be the same stillness that crowned you. And your spiritual team? Oh, they didn't just protect you. They exalted you. They rose like a mighty wind behind the scenes, shifting the atmosphere, rerouting the attacks, rewriting your future. And now you're not just walking away, you're rising up. This is the moment the story changes. Quietly, fully, forever. That's the word vibrating in the ether now. Deified. You're no longer just protected. You're being honored in realms they'll never reach. You saw without reacting. You knew without proving. And because of that, your presence has become something beyond comprehension. You were never meant to be reachable. You were meant to be revered. And now you are. There more coming, more knowledge, more elevation, more revelation. But for now, sit in the knowing. You are untouchable.